Hi, I'm Kalilah Reynolds, founder of Money Media right here in Jamaica, and today I'm guest hosting a special episode of Star Spangled Sit-Down for the U.S. Embassy based in Kingston, Jamaica. And if you're an entrepreneur, you definitely want to pull up a chair for this one because we are talking about mastering your money mindset, something that I love to talk about, my favorite topic to talk about, actually. Our guest today is a very special lady. Her name is Danetha Doe. She is Jamaican and Liberian American. Let me tell you a little bit about her. So Danetha is the founder of Money and Mimosas. I like that combination. It is a financial education company that was launched in 2014, so she's been doing this for a minute. Since then, Money and Mimosas has helped small businesses raise over 160 million, not Jamaican dollars, US dollars in capital. Welcome, Danetha. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Love the outfit, by the way.
Thank you.
Somebody got the memo, yellow and blue, right?
I did. I blend in well. Thank you.
I love it. So you were actually on a TV series called Going From Broke. Tell me what that experience was like.
It was an incredible experience.
You were a coach, by the way.
I was. So I was the first TV expert for that series, and the series was to help 10 millennials manage their money. Some of them had debt, others had small business streams, and I was brought in to help them create a plan to either pay down the debt or get their businesses off the ground. It was an awesome experience. We ended up having 20 million viewers during my season.
Wow.
And it was very fulfilling to help folks reach their goals.
What was that on?
It was on Crackle, which is a TV network that you can access in the United States. Hopefully you can access it here in Jamaica as well. And you can still see my season.
Yeah, I think talking about money has become a lot more acceptable in the past 5 years even, I'd say, because in the past, when I was growing up, you don't really talk about money. You don't ask people about money, you don't talk about money. Now it's becoming more socially acceptable to talk about it and to even admit some of the misgivings and the missteps that we've taken, because how many people really want to go on a TV show and admit that, hey, I'm broke, Danetha, I need your help? How tough was it dealing and helping those people?
Well, I love your point about it's more acceptable now to talk about money, and thank goodness, because a lot of us do carry shame or guilt about some of our decisions that we've made in the past, and once we share that with others, we realize that we're not alone. Most of us have been in some way, shape, or form in that same boat. And what I loved about the show that I was on was I was able to talk to folks about the emotional side of money. Because when it comes to money, it's not just black and white, it's not just numbers on a page. There are past experiences that we've had that have colored our decisions with money. There may be trauma from our upbringing that has colored our decisions with money.
Financial trauma. I have a friend who loves to talk about that.
It's a real thing, and thankfully these conversations are being had because it's really important.
So what led you to starting Money and Mimosas, and why that combination?
Well, like you, I love money and I love mimosas as well. I was inspired to start Money and Mimosas because I wanted a resource as an entrepreneur that was educational, informative, but also inspiring. I felt that a lot of resources out there didn't really speak to me as a woman. I love fashion, I love to spend money on beauty, and I don't think anything's wrong with that as long as you're doing it mindfully. And I wanted a resource to be able to do that. It was inspired, Money and Mimosas was inspired by two specific experiences that I had. One was a high school class that I took. And in that class, it was an entrepreneurship class. And in that class, we created a business, then we created a business plan, and then presented the plan to bankers. And we were either awarded a loan, it was a fake loan, but awarded a loan, or we were told, you know what, great idea, but tweak this in your plan and then come back to us. And that experience taught me that if I combined creativity, passion, with an understanding of numbers, because in a business plan you have to have an income statement, a balance sheet, a cash flow statement, though I learned that the entire world was open to me if I could combine those three skills. The second experience that inspired Money and Mimosas was my brunch dates with my girlfriends. During those dates, we would get together, drink bottomless mimosas over brunch, and talk about our dreams with each other. And it was such a fun, inviting experience each and every time. None of us were judging the other person. We were there to support each other. And that was the essence that I wanted to infuse into my company, both educational and informative, but also inviting. I hope that our readers see me as their girlfriend or their big sister that's not judging them, but just here to support them on their entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, and you started at a time where it really wasn't sexy. You know, like right now we have so many other examples. We have EYL that's gone mainstream. You have people like Rachel Rogers, Tiffany Alici, who's always on Good Morning America and those great shows. And as a black woman, your demographic has historically been underrepresented in this whole money conversation. I saw something probably yesterday online saying that black women are like the least represented in terms of the finance industry and financial coaches. Like, how have you found it challenging having people see you as being credible because you're a black woman talking about money?
That's a great question. When I started back in 2014, you're right. There weren't that many other folks doing this type of work that looked like me, and that was part of the inspiration for me starting my company, because I wanted to see myself. I wanted to see someone who was black, who was also first generation American, who had family in the Caribbean and West Africa, who loved fashion, who loves beauty, but also loves to talk about money and is unapologetic about wanting to live a lavish lifestyle. And I didn't see that represented, and I wanted to be that for myself first. And if I happen to inspire other people who also look like me and think like me, then that would be an added bonus.
No, what would you say are some of the main challenges that are keeping entrepreneurs from mastering the money mindset that you spoke about?
I think there are several challenges depending upon someone's upbringing. The two that I would say there's two that I consistently see. One is confidence. The belief that you do know how to master your own money. There's a lot of messaging that shames someone's financial decisions, which can lead to less confidence, feeling disempowered around finances. And that does end up impacting an entrepreneur's journey, because it takes confidence, I'm sure you know, to...
That imposter syndrome is real.
It really is real. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers to mastering your money mindset, really stepping out of a scarcity mindset and moving into an abundance mindset. And then I would say the second piece is education. Particularly for entrepreneurs, it's education around accounting. So how do you manage the books of your business? It's a little bit different than managing your personal finances. Right. If you're in a product-based business, as an example, you've got inventory to manage. Then you're thinking about cash flow, and if you've got a business that's seasonal, maybe your business does a lot of sales during the summer months, but maybe Christmas time, exactly. But then maybe it kind of tapers off during the fall or February. That's a different skill set to know how to manage those ebbs and flows in the business. And so education around that, I think, is lacking in a lot of school systems and just broadly for folks. And that's one of the barriers to being a successful entrepreneur, and one of the barriers to mastering your mindset.
Absolutely. I've seen so many entrepreneurs come and they don't even know if they're making a profit or not. Like, just basic numbers. How much are you spending? How much are you earning? They have no idea. They're just doing it day to day. If there's money in their account, they have money, right? What about access to capital? Because here in Jamaica, when I speak to entrepreneurs, that is one of the number one things that they say is a barrier for them.
It is a barrier, and that is our biggest focus at Money and Mimosas, is getting cash into the hands of entrepreneurs that need it in order to fuel their dreams. My very first client when I started my business was a fashion truck owner. So she owned a mobile fashion truck, and she wanted to expand it to a brick and mortar location, so have a physical location for her fashion business. And the challenge wasn't that she didn't know how to do it or that she didn't have the persistence, the resilience. The challenge was she didn't have the money in order to be able to afford what it costs to actually move into a physical location, hire a manager. And our project together was to get her the capital she needed. And what we needed to do was get her books clean, get her accounting in order so that she could present the business to funders in order to get the funding that she needed. And what I found during that process was it is tough for entrepreneurs, particularly entrepreneurs that are in the creative industries, fashion, beauty, media, music. It's tough to find capital for those businesses because it's sometimes tough to present that business case to bankers, to lenders. And it's also tough to figure out how exactly is the business doing. Like you said, business owners are going day to day, checking their bank account to see if I've got enough money to make it through the day, then the business is fine, right? But there's a little bit more to the story than just that to determine if it's profitable, if it's doing well. So yes, raising capital can be a challenge.
And that's where you come in, because you've helped people raise over 160 million US dollars. So how do I get some of that money? How do we raise money? That's such a difficult thing for most people. What are the steps to raising capital?
Yeah, the first step is to get your books organized. So you have to have a bookkeeping program in place. I prefer and recommend using an online-based bookkeeping program. That's one that you can access from anywhere in the world, whether you're here in Kingston or you're in Oakland, California, you can access that information. So you want to start there. You need to have a bookkeeping program in place, and you need to have it attached to your bank accounts for your business so that the information is coming in, and then you need to manage the books, meaning don't just let the bookkeeping program sit there. Every week, I recommend doing it weekly, track those transactions, categorize them, reconcile them. And then once you've got that in place, then you're setting yourself up to be able to create a business case, which means running those financial reports. There are 3 key financial reports that every business owner should know: the balance sheet, cash flow statement, and income statement. So get the
Profit and loss statement.
Exactly.
That's the income statement.
The income statement, profit and loss statement, P&L report. It goes by different names. So get those reports in order, and if you have those 2 steps completed, you're well on your way to figuring out, okay, where can I go and get the financing I need for my business.
But how do you do that? Like, do you look online? Because that is Greek to many people.
It can be.
I never studied accounting, so
Sure.
how do I figure out how do I create these things? What do I do?
The first step, I would say, if once you have those first 2 steps in place, now you're ready to start looking for funding. Do a quick internet search for organizations in your area that support small business owners. So there are organizations, sometimes they're called micro lenders, so lenders that will do smaller loans to small business owners in the area. Take a look to see if they're in your specific area. And the reason why I say maybe start there is because sometimes their requirements are a little bit more flexible than, say, a traditional bank. That could be the next step that a business owner, depending on how much money they're looking for, you may want to check your bank to see what programs they have available for business owners. One of my favorite ways to raise capital is a technique called equity crowdfunding. So this is, many folks are probably familiar with crowdfunding. Kickstarter is a platform that some folks will use, Indiegogo, where you're raising money from the crowd. So you're going out to the community, maybe your clients, your customers are a part of that crowd, and you raise money from them in order to fund the business. Equity crowdfunding takes that a step further. So you're still reaching out to your community, you're reaching out to your customers, your clients, and in addition to raising funding from them, you're giving them the option to be investors in your business. So they will retain a percentage ownership of the business. And I love this technique for raising funding because it gets the business owner access to capital, and it also helps your community be a part of wealth creation. So everyone's winning. You as the business owner, your clients, your customers, because they're able to be a part of your financial success.
I love that, but then you have to be accountable to them.
Absolutely. Well, either way, if you're raising money from your customers, your clients, or a bank, you're going to be accountable to someone, because you will have to, if you're raising it from a bank or a micro lender, you will have to pay it back because it's a loan. Equity crowdfunding, it's not a loan, it's not a guarantee that these investors will get their money back, but because you want to do right by your customers and your community, you're going to do your best as a business owner. Most business owners want to do their best and be successful and share their rewards with others. And so equity crowdfunding, yes, you are accountable to your clients, your customers, your community. And I think that's part of the beauty of it. Everyone is involved in the success of the business.
What do you say to entrepreneurs and small business owners who are scared of debt?
That is a layered question because sometimes the fear around debt comes from your upbringing. It could be related to your culture. It could be related to what you heard from family members or friends growing up about being scared around debt. For some people, then that means that you've got to peel back a few layers on that onion to see what is the root of that fear. I would say the first step to take is to get clear on why you're afraid of debt. Is it because you saw someone else maybe close to you get burdened by debt and they weren't able to climb out of that hole and you're afraid that you'll fall into that same predicament? And then once you're clear on the root, then you can start retraining your relationship with debt, because I heard the other day that debt is an invoice for your blessings. Right? A beautiful reframe, because it's money that was given to you before you had the full opportunity to prove that you could pay it back. What a blessing that is for someone to entrust money to you with the promise that you'll pay it back in the future. And that's what debt is. Most entrepreneurs, most folks that have secured any type of financial success use debt as a vehicle to get there.
At some point.
At some point. It's a leverage. It's an invoice for blessings.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it might be a cultural thing. That we're here in Jamaica and the Caribbean, we're like, we just don't want to owe nobody.
Sure.
We don't want to owe people. I don't know if it's the same thing in America, where you have this resistance to borrowing. I think the culture might be a bit different there, because credit cards are a huge thing in your environment.
It is. In the United States, we have a love-hate relationship with debt. We definitely use it and utilize it, but there's shame attached to utilizing it. And so unpacking that shame does take time. And that's why I said getting to the root, that's why I said it's a layered question, because getting to the root of why you're fearful of debt might be cultural. Well, then now we're talking about generations of reframe in terms of how you approach debt, how you think of it. It might go back many generations. In the United States, yes, it's a love-hate relationship, and that requires its own form of unpacking.
Yeah, one of our most famous businessmen here in Jamaica, Michael Leachin, Jamaican-Canadian billionaire, he always says, OPP is the key. Use OPM, other people's money.
Sure.
Is what you need. Because at some point, bootstrapping just isn't enough.
Exactly.
If you really want to scale and take it to the next level, you have to get external funding somehow.
Absolutely. And for some people, particularly women that I come across who are business owners, not utilizing debt is sometimes a reflection of them being unwilling to ask for help. Because for some of us, depending upon our culture, our upbringing, we were taught we had to shoulder all of the responsibility, that I have to take on all of the challenges and I can't spread that out to other people. And OPM is a great way to reframe it. That could be a reframe to help someone see that, no, it's okay to ask for help and get support.
Yeah. How do you go from side hustle, though, which a lot of us start out as a side hustle, maybe passion project? How do you make that your main thing?
Yes, that's how Money and Mimosas started. It was a passion project for me. And I started it in conjunction with doing consulting, and I thought consulting was going to be my main gig, but then Money and Mimosas took on a life of its own. So from personal experience, I made that transition by setting really small incremental financial goals. Once I reached X amount, once I reached X amount of dollars, then I knew I could leave the other projects I was doing and focus on Money and Mimosas full time. So I would say do that. Start with incremental goals, financial goals, work your way towards them, and then transition from there.
How do you know when to hire, though?
It depends on the business. I say that the best way to know if you're ready to hire is when you realize that you're putting more effort into that role than into growing the business. So once those tasks get to the point where it's actually detracting from you doing sales or being the spokesperson for your own company, then it's time to hire out.
And when you have enough revenue to afford to hire somebody?
If you
Or
have
not
enough
necessarily?
revenue, or that might be a reason to raise money. You know,
Mhm.
that's part of the reason why raising capital is so necessary, because sometimes you need to hire to grow, but the revenue may not be there yet in order to hire. So you raise capital in order to hire the folks that you need, and then you're able to grow the revenue so that the business can then sustain those roles.
It's the classic chicken and egg situation, right? You need to hire to make more money, but then you need more money in order to hire. So it's like, which one do I do first? How do I get around it?
And that's why my love and passion and compassion for entrepreneurs is endless. Because these are things we aren't taught in school, and you can't be taught this in school. It is on the ground work. You have to have real life experience and application to know when is the right time to make these decisions. It really is an art. You know, sometimes folks think that math, or think that money is a science, think that business is just math, and it is to a certain extent, but a lot of it is this art that you're talking about. It's a chicken and egg type of dance. When do I make the decision? One of the mantras that I use that may be helpful to others is, I'm not worried about making the right decision because I know I'll make the decision right. So regardless of the decision that I make, it is going to be right, because as an entrepreneur, you will make it the right decision.
And finally, Danetha, we spoke earlier about getting an investor, potentially getting a loan, getting funding in some way, even crowdfunding. What is the number one thing that potential investors look for? I know you said accounting and having your books in order, but apart from that, because anybody can show numbers, right? Apart from that, what do investors look for that makes your business investable to them?
In this environment, investors are looking for a clear path to profitability. Your business doesn't have to be profitable today, but they need to see that you've thought through how the business will be profitable and when it'll be profitable. And that's where those financial statements come into play, because you create the financial statements, you create the projections, you create that path to profitability, and then you can speak to it. And that's what investors are looking for.
Awesome. Well, how can people find you? Like online? Where do we go?
The best place to find me is moneyandmimosas.com. We send out a weekly newsletter every Sunday with tips on just this. How do you raise capital for your business?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danetha, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.
We appreciate your presence, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Star Spangled Sit-Down. I always have to say it so slowly. Say that 10 times fast. Star Spangled Sit-Down.
Better you than me.
All right. Yeah, join us next time here at the U.S. Embassy for another episode of Star Spangled Sit-Down. I'm Kalilah Reynolds. It was my pleasure, and we'll see you next time.